Ib Kristoffersen, OZ1MY in Denmark. He generally takes care of Europe and Africa for us. Mark Hammond, N8MH, Colin Hurst down in Australia. Colin does a lot of telemetry analysis for us, long-term trends with the satellite, which is very, very handy. Gould, myself, and just recently we had Patrick, I always mess, Patrick, are you here? It's WD9EW, I always mess your call up for some reason. Patrick helped us out with the operations committee for several years. He's stepped down, and we've announced that we're looking for a new person, and we have several very good people that have volunteered, so we're going to fill that slot real soon.
Where's Colin?
Colin's in Australia.
Southeast corner or central?
I couldn't tell you. I'll give you a brief state of our AMSAT fleet, so to speak. A07, she's still ticking. What a great satellite. I've told people before, but I'm just constantly amazed. That satellite is 1 month younger than I am, and it's still ticking. Right now, she just came out of a period where there were no eclipses during every orbit, full sun. Some really interesting things happens when we're in full sun. The 24-hour timer that switches between mode A and mode B started working again because it got to 24 hours and wasn't reset every orbit. Towards the end of this period, which is ending on the 15th, the 435-100 beacon started coming on, and evidently it was generated, the position was enough that the attitude was right for it to generate enough power to power that particular module, and the RIDI beacon on 435-100 started working, which we hadn't seen that before. Every time Mike had tried to command it on, it just gave out a solid tone and didn't work. So that was sort of unexpected. We keep getting new things out of 7, new old things. When she goes back in the eclipse on the 15th, past history has shown us that typically upon coming out of eclipse, she'll go into mode B. And so if you're a big mode B fan, now's your time. Whenever the footprint of the satellite crosses the terminator on your tracking program, the sun light dark line, she'll be working. The eclipses are really short, generally less than 10 to 12% of the orbit, so she's on most of the time. And there's lots of DX activity on A07. A07's in about a 1,450 kilometer orbit at apogee. That's a good footprint, very respectable footprint. Seems to be mainly on mode B. Mode A is a little tougher to hear. Just as an example, here we are in Ohio. This is a descending pass. From this point, you can work probably about half of Europe here. And A07 with a good ASL system, you can typically work down to 1 or 2 degrees above the horizon, depending on if you have trees or mountains or things like that. This is another shot. This is my home here in Florida on the West Coast. I have worked just about all of the countries in South America that are on the air. So even folks up here in the Northeast and on other passes over here in the West can get into South America. All of the Caribbean islands, the Azores, Bermuda, Hawaii. If you're anywhere other than right in here, you can work all states on A07. So DX lives still on satellite. A little bit about AO16. Mark talked last year, I believe, about the Lazarus effect we had with AO16 and bringing it back to life and finding a new use for it due to some testing protocols that were left over in the satellite from pre-launch. Basically, the computer works in AO16, but the memory, between the memory and the computer, that part does not work. It corrupts what you're loading in and out of the computer. So only the base level commands are still working on it. Unfortunately, there's a bug that was common to all of the microsats, all of the original microsats. with a watchdog timer that degraded probably due to radiation and the way it was put together, that resets the satellite based on, and it's temperature dependent. Right now AO16 is back into eclipses and it's cooled off some, and once it gets below about 14 degrees Celsius, it starts resetting the satellite every few minutes. So we can fire the satellite up, and sometimes it will stay up for a couple of seconds, and sometimes it will stay up long enough to get halfway through the call sign of the station you're calling before it shuts off. So it's basically out of commission until we get back into possibly a little warmer orbit where a little less eclipse and a little more sun, and it might be able to be brought back for a little while. The important thing I wanted to mention about AO16 is that its brief second life has reminded us of a lesson that was learned with UO14. UO14 was originally a store and forward packet satellite, and when the computer on it quit working, there was also the ability to just simply interconnect a receiver and a transmitter and make a bent pipe out of it. Any satellite, CubeSat, Microsat, University, Nanosat, which are bigger than we consider nanosats, these all, anything in the amateur band, this could be built into it. And when the satellite reaches the end of its useful life for its primary mission, it'd be nice to have that backup capability. This is how we felt when we figured out that 16 was just done. Really, Mark put a lot of work into it, and it's hard to stomach, but I'd hate to be in that situation. We'll talk about AO51. AO51 just continues to amaze me. There's a lot of stuff that's built into 51 that we just haven't seen before, and it's totally flexible. And the operations committee has really tried very hard to explore every different possible combination of modes and uses that we can get out of this satellite. She's still functioning nearly 100% after launch almost 5 years ago. Just an example of some of the modes. We're going up on V, coming down on UHF, up on 2, down on 2.4, up on 1.2, down on 435. I mean, all of these combinations. With the AO51 has also been in a period of continuous illumination on and off over the past year. That's allowed us to run some new combinations that we haven't been able to do before because of our power budget. We've run an L or VHF uplink and had simultaneous downlinks on UHF and S-band. That's the same audio on both channels. This is kind of unique. It lets the people that like S-band have something to listen to and tweak their gear and make contacts. And it gets the numbers up for people that maybe only have LU or VU. So that's been real nice to be able to run that. And we can do that generally whenever we're in continuous illumination. We've had the FM repeater. We've used the SQRX receiver that has a sideband mode to go up on sideband on both 2 meters and L-band. L-band LEO on sideband is tough, and some of you guys did it, and that's really a big accomplishment. That's if you can do L sideband up on a LEO satellite and stay on frequency, you're really doing something. So there's some technical challenges that we've been able to provide our members to give them a target. 9K6 and 38K4 digital. Haven't run a whole lot of 38.4, but hope to do more of that in the future. And here recently, we before Richard's mission to the ISS, we knew that he was going to be doing a lot of slow scans, so we opened up and opened a second repeater up on AO51 and set it aside for slow scan use. And that was totally surprised me how popular that was. And we've run it several times since then. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. This is a chart of the illumination periods of AO51. This starts over in, let's see, December 1st or so of 2006 and goes over to July of 2010. So we were looking for this, and Gould and I both left it at home evidently. But if you go out further, we've got about another year of these full illumination periods, and then we go back into a pretty steady eclipse period where we're not going to have quite as much power available. So we plan to get as much use out of this during those periods as we can. Typically during the full illumination periods, we've been running both transmitters at about 800 milliwatts apiece. Generally during eclipse periods, the transmitters are back around 350 to 450 milliwatts, depending on just how long it is. Again, the increased power budget, we can run both the UHF and the S-band downlinks at the same time, which is really cool. The increased heat from the full illumination may shorten some of the battery life. Now in the meantime, before we get back to the constant eclipses, that impact's pretty minimal. Basically right now we've got the valve wide open and the batteries just act as a buffer when the solar angles as the satellite spins changes. There's actually one panel that has less cells on it, makes a little less electricity, so you can see that little dip in the whole orbit data as it goes by. And that's about the only time we're drawing out of the batteries during the full illumination periods. So some of the other things we've done on 51 that are kind of unique, over the last couple of years we've had college radio nights where a lot of the college groups, especially the ones building CubeSats and that have ground stations for their CubeSats, they've all gotten together. Sometimes we give them their own repeaters, sometimes we encourage them to mix in with the other users, and that's been really popular. I know one night I worked about 6 different universities on a couple of passes of 51. University of Florida, Jay Garlitz has got a great group down there. University of Arkansas, I think there was a university up in Michigan. So there were a bunch of students on there, and that's nice to hear. Again, the SSTV before the ISS activity, and it's been so popular we've tried to run it about once a month since then. We're going to continue to support Kids Day and Jamboree on the Air and other special events. If you have something like that going on, or know of something like that, and you have a particular mode that you would like to see on AO51, drop us an email, AO51-modes@amsat.org. And I'm just in the middle of putting together a collaboration with the Echoes of Apollo group, and we hope to do something similar to the Sputnik special event that we did about 1.5 years ago this summer for the 40th anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing. So we'll see something about that in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully we'll get some dates and times put together. This is an example of some of the slow scan pictures. These are from several different stations. Wonder what you can dig up at Google at 1 in the morning last night. Here's one, a contact between KB2HSH and WA2S. Here's one from Europe. Mike, DK3WN, has got a bunch of them on his website, and a Danish station. He's got a nice suffix. This is a neat picture. VA7VW up on a mountaintop somewhere. Lots of snow, too much for a Florida boy like me, but that's a rare grid square too. And here's one from Japan. So it's in use everywhere. We caught wind of the de-expedition to K5D Desecheo down in the Caribbean by Puerto Rico, and I got in contact with some of the team members. And are any of you guys here? Anybody from the K5D group here? Okay. Basically, AMSAT loaned them an HT and an Arrow. It was kind of a last-minute deal. They didn't have a whole lot of room to pack satellite gear with them. So we sent them a Kenwood D7 that Doug, N6 TQS, I think it is, donated. And we had a couple of Arrow antennas, one from Patrick and one from Tim Lilly and 3TL. We packaged that up, sent them down, sent them out to them, worked with them over the phone, got them used to using SAT PC32, ran some pass predictions for them, and tried to do our best. Keith W5YI or IU helped them out with making some contacts before they left. They managed this is a very limited scale operation, but they managed about 50 unique call signs They were on the ISS crossband repeater, SO50 and AO51. It was a bit of chaos. We set aside a separate repeater for them on 51, and I severely underestimated the demand for that particular DXCC entity. So it was a little crazy, but lots of people got in the log. So we still have that HT and antennas available if you're going on a DXpedition somewhere, or even a rare grid expedition, a cruise, say, through the Caribbean, and some of these grid squares that are all water. You'll be a very popular person on satellite, especially with the grid squares. Drop me an email, let me know what's going on, and we can see if we can loan that out to you and help you get going on that. Here's some pictures from K5D. This is a certificate they sent us in appreciation of our contribution. This is Gary and Mike on the first contact. I worked on, how long do we have? I got a couple minutes still? Okay, quick aside, I was the first station to work them, obviously, on SO50, and it was Saturday or Sunday afternoon. I was at my sister's house. It was about an hour from my house, and I got a phone call on my cell phone, and it's not bad, and it was, they were on an Iridium phone, and they said, we're going to be on SO50 in 45 minutes, and I'm an hour from home. So I got on the highway and ended up parking on a side of the road and working him on SO50 in just a low 8-degree pass. And you can see how low he's aiming at the horizon too. So it was a good stretch. But we got it done, and that encouraged them to get on and make a lot more contacts, or at least try. They capped off their satellite operation with, I'll just let you listen to it. And I think we're wired for sound here. Evidently not. Okay, that didn't work. They ended up making a contact on the last day with Mike Fink aboard the ISS. So if you swing by the AMSAT booth, I'll play the audio for you. We only got part of it because they had to wait until they were down where we were out of the footprint to really make it work. But Mike was on several passes looking for him, and they finally hooked up, and what a great way to end a DXpedition by working the ISS. So had several questions. I haven't published this yet, so you guys are the first to know. For AO51 this year for field day, we're going to duplicate what we did last year. We're going to have dual repeaters running, the standard 145.92 uplink, 435 down, and then the other repeater will be LU 1268 700 FM up, 435 150 down. If you guys have L gear, break it out before field day, and we'll run this for probably a week before field day. If you want to make a contact on AO51 on field day and you don't live in Alaska, Hawaii, or the tip of Florida, this is the one you want to try. This is pretty chaotic on field day, to say the least. So a few words about the engineering task force. As Barry said earlier, we were formed in October 2008 to continue the AMSAT engineering activities. He went over who's on the team. The list is the same. Our first task was to review Tom's Intelsat proposal, and this got us thinking about different rideshare opportunities. You know, one thing I keep thinking back to, how many people here got started on RS-10 or RS-12? You know, that's probably 25 or 50% of the people that get started on satellite in that time frame started on those two satellites. Those were both rideshare satellites. They were bolted to Russian surveying or weather satellites. So there's a lot of good things about that. So we started thinking about that. We also sort of picked up along the way that we'd support and help finish SuperSat 2. So thinking about the rideshare opportunities, we put together what boards, what modules, receivers, transmitters, interconnects, antennas, what do we have available now that we can duplicate for a quick reaction time if we find an opportunity. And we really have quite a bit of stuff. We can pull from all over the world on different projects. Coming in with material is not particularly difficult with ITAR, it's going out. So if we need a board design from someone that, say in Germany, that did something, we can do that. So we started putting together this list and thinking about how we can put these together for any low-cost launch opportunities that we come up with. We've got to build and fly stuff to survive. If we're not building satellites, why are we here? So that it's very important to me that we get some stuff in the air and working. So to do that, we've got to identify these launch opportunities, both for independent standalone spacecraft and what I call hitchhiker packages, these rideshare opportunities. So I'm going to talk to you briefly about what we've got cooking. I'm not going to use any names because I can't yet, so please understand that. Probably on the foremost of what we're working with right now, we're looking at a secondary package on a large university satellite that's going to LEO. And the current sort of straw man proposal is a Mode B FM repeater and also a Mode B SDX transponder. If we do get a ride to a high orbit, we don't want to fly SDX to high orbit the first time we really put a lot of users through it. So, you know, we want to vet this thing and get it working right before we hang a big mission on it. So I think this is very important. This is, in my mind, the primary part of the package. This particular opportunity is talking about giving us 10 to 15 watts DC orbit average. So that's a lot of power. That's about half, or actually about the same as AO51 orbit average. We're also starting discussions with another small spacecraft manufacturer about adding hitchhikers on some of their future satellites. And I have high hopes for this one too. I think that one will work out. This is a neat little one. We've got tentative approval from a manufacturer for a very small package going to GTO, geostationary transfer orbit. This is a HEO orbit. May not be a particularly stable one over the long term, but for a couple of years at least. How small? 4 by 4 by 2 inches. Pretty small. But if you think about it, and they're going to give us 1 watt on orbit average proposed. That's about half of a CubeSat. So if we pursue this, you know, there's a lot of things we don't know. They're working on another mission right now. They have basically told us come back in 6 months or so and we'll be ready to give you some specifics. We don't know if it's going to be stabilized. You know, it's hard to use a gain antenna when you don't know which way it's going to be pointed on the satellite. We don't know exactly what frequencies they're going to use, and we haven't really defined what they expect from us. It would fit under the amateur service, so it may be that we just provide them some telemetry, an alternate downlink for some telemetry, and use it to wedge our foot firmly in the door for a bigger package on a subsequent satellite. This is actually a series of satellites. So we'll see what comes out of that. It may be as simple as a 400 baud PSK downlink that we would borrow from SuperSat with the FEC encoding. It may be something more. It may be something as easy as a PSK 31 transponder. You know, we'll get whatever we can on it, and I'm at 90 countries DXCC, so if there can be a transponder on it, I'm for it. So